The story of the Super Duper Mart begins with Preston Garvey.
Who are these people? Just folks looking for a new home, a fresh start. I've been with them since Quincy. Lexington looked good for a while, but the ghouls drove us out of there.
So while retreating from Quincy, the Minutemen and the Quincy refugees stopped by Lexington, where they encountered feral ghouls. Preston tells us that yesterday there were 8 of them, today there are only 5. What happened to the other Minutemen? To find out, we go to the Super Duper Mart. As you arrive, you hear the whistle of mini-nukes sailing through the sky. A raider in raider power armor armed with a fat man is attacking a super mutant behemoth. You can wade in to deal with both of them yourself. If you do, feral ghouls decide to join the melee and swarm you from the nearby abandoned buildings. Now it is easy to see how the Minutemen got picked off here in Lexington. Once you defeat the raiders, the ghouls, and the behemoth, you can finally explore the Super Duper Mart. Outside the main door, there's a stack of Mr. Handy Fuel, which is a great resource for oil, which you can use in weapon building and creating defense for your settlements. Turning left and exploring the perimeter of the building, we discover an outdoor patio eating area with tables and chairs. Here we find a porta diner where we can roll the dice to see if we can get a perfectly preserved pie. And a parking garage. Inside the parking garage, we find a door that leads to an interior cell. This is the underground parking garage for the Super Duper Mart. As we delve deeper, the first thing we come upon is a Minuteman corpse. The water surrounding his body is red with blood. How did he get here? Could this be one of the Minutemen that was part of Preston Garvey's entourage? Turning left, we see exactly what happened to him. Feral ghouls swarm us from the darkness and begin to attack. Be careful while attacking because there is oil on the ground. Inside the locked door, we find a first aid kit and an explosives box. Continuing on, we find a dead settler lying face down in the back of a picker-up truck. Was this also a refugee from Quincy? The only reason the Minutemen were in Quincy is because the citizens of that town had called for help. Preston Garvey tells us himself that many of the survivors have lost family members.
Used to be a lot of families in this group. More than a few missing relatives.
We know that the Long family lost their son, Kyle. Maybe this woman was a citizen of Quincy. Near to a Protectron charging station is a door that leads us right back outside. Continuing on around behind the Super Duper Mart leads us to 2 garage doors. This is the loading dock, where the Super Duper Mart received supplies from trucks. You can hack into the nearby terminal to unlock the garage doors. But let's skip this for now. We'll enter the garage from inside the Super Duper Mart. Back around front, we find a rail sign near the front door, which is a warning: danger inside. Upon entry, we see a Protectron in a charging station, but no terminal to release him. We have 2 paths before us, left or right. For this tour, let's try the left path first. Immediately to the left is a small little shop. Perhaps it was a cigarette shop or customer support. Inside this room is a locked safe. When you explore the terminal, you don't learn any lore. This terminal is used to activate the Protectron by the front door. You can then load the Protectron override software that you found from Watts Electronics, or use the hacker perk to turn the Protectron into a temporary companion. Continuing on, we find the checkout area of the grocery store. You'll find some pre-war money, but not much else. Against the far wall, we find the diner, and it's here where we finally find some ghouls. They attack us in mass. To the left of the diner is a public telephone station. Inside the diner, we find a bunch of skeletons. People were eating in the grocery store when the bombs fell. Some of them must have been teenagers on a date. A boy has his arm over the skeleton of a girl. Heading back out and continuing along this wall, we find the waiting room to the pharmacy. In the magazine rack near the counter, we find Tales of a Junktown Jerky Vendor, which improves prices we get when buying and selling to vendors. The door to the pharmacy is locked. When you pick the lock, the first thing we find is the corpse of another Minuteman. It looks like the Minutemen chose the wrong place to seek shelter. The ghouls likely responsible for this Minuteman's death wake up and attack you, giving you a chance for revenge. The pharmacy has a lot of chems. 2 Rad-X sitting on the counter next to the corpse, Mentats, Med-X, and a bunch of other chems lining the shelves. Exiting the pharmacy and continuing along the wall, we find a doorway that leads to the employee section of the grocery store. Ghouls from the interior of the grocery store wake up and attack you. In the very back, we find an office space. This is likely a place where accountants were taking record of their finances and keeping stock of supplies. We find an espresso machine sitting on one of the desks. This is rather odd. We find an explanation in the nearby terminal. Management of the Super Duper Mart had to fire a woman named Sally. They replaced her with an espresso machine. They put it on Sally's desk. But this is only temporary. The machine makes too much noise to be this close to employees while they work. They plan to move it to the kitchen. But the industrial mount they ordered for the machine doesn't fit in their kitchen. So they hired a contractor to knock down some walls to get it to fit. Could this explain why the roof is caved in the middle of the grocery store? Perhaps the contractor removed a load-bearing wall, which caused this dramatic collapse. In this room, we find a teddy bear wearing handcuffs encaged underneath a waste paper basket that's weighted down with an upside-down chair. Right next to this incarcerated teddy bear is a wall safe with some random loot. As soon as we enter the kitchen, ghouls crawl into the kitchen from outside the grocery store using the narrow windows at the top of the walls. At the far end of the kitchen, we do find a huge hole in one of the walls. Could this be one of the walls that the contractors began working on to make room for the espresso machine? The locked door at the end of the hallway just leads back out into the grocery store. Here you can finish off any remaining ghouls and finish up the loop of the grocery store to get as much loot as you can. Because now, we go down. Going through the hole in the kitchen wall leads us to the power room. These are the generators that powered the Super Duper Mart. There is flammable gas in this room, which is helpful for igniting the ghouls on fire, but just be careful. There's a fusion core in one of the generators, and before going downstairs, we can go through a door at the back of the hallway to explore the storeroom. The storeroom is filled with all sorts of boxes, lining the hallway to the left and filling the side rooms to the right. As you reach the end of the hallway, feral ghouls wake up and begin to attack. More oil lines the floor, which is proving to be a nightmare for any of us using energy weapons. Once the ghouls are dealt with, we find yet another Minuteman corpse leaning against a green trunk. This is Josh, and on his body we find Josh's holotape.
I came back yesterday with Emma. Everyone's gone. Looks like they left in a hurry and had one hell of a fight. Feral corpses everywhere. Emma and I searched for anything that might tell us where they went. The only thing we found was Anthony. Must have been bad. They never would have left his body there. I set Emma down to the loading dock to wait for me while I check on something. We won't stay long. I just want to get Anthony's body and... Wait. The Pharaohs are back. Oh, fuck me.
It sounds like Josh and Emma initially escaped the ghouls at Lexington, but came back to retrieve the dead. He mentioned a third named Anthony. Anthony must have been the Minuteman corpse that we found on the desk in the pharmacy. Preston Garvey said that they were 5, but only a day earlier they had been 8, which means there are 3 missing. Josh and Anthony make 2, but where's Emma? Heading back down the hallway and around the corner, we go downstairs. At the end of the stairs is a door to the Commonwealth. This leads us to the loading dock that we saw earlier. As soon as we enter, 3 feral ghouls awaken, forcing us to kill them. And at last we find the third Minuteman, Emma. Her corpse lies against an explosives and ammo crate, and a laser musket lies beside her. On her inventory is Emma's holotape.
What the hell is Josh doing? He's been gone for over an hour. We need to get out of here. The guys are thinking we're already at Concord. If Josh would hurry his ass up, maybe we can get there in time. Shit! Gunfire! Not good! Josh!
So here's the full picture. Mama Murphy gets a vision that gunners are gonna attack Quincy. She and Sturgis call out to the Minutemen for help. Preston Garvey arrives with 15 or so Minutemen to defend Quincy, but they are overwhelmed by gunners and betrayed by their own. Preston and the remaining Minutemen flee Quincy with that town's citizens. They lose many of their members to death and desertion, and many of the citizens of Quincy during the long trek from Quincy to Lexington. At Lexington, they try to create a home only to discover that the place is infested with feral ghouls. They flee to the Super Duper Mart, but again find it infested with more ghouls. Here, at least 2 Minutemen die, Anthony inside the Super Duper Mart, and the unnamed Minuteman in the underground garage, and at least 1 civilian dies as well. The unnamed settler whom the Minuteman in the underground garage was protecting. Preston and the remaining survivors flee Lexington for Concord. By now their number is 8. Josh and Emma can't stand the fact that they left their own dead behind in Lexington, and so they leave Preston Garvey and his entourage to go back and retrieve their bodies. This reduces Preston's crew to 6, but then one of the Minutemen dies in Concord. We find his corpse lying on the ground in Concord. Josh and Emma make it to the Super Duper Mart. Josh sends Emma to the loading dock to wait for him. Josh finds Anthony's body, but before he can retrieve the body, feral ghouls attack. Meanwhile, Emma is in the garage waiting for Josh. She's scared. Where is he? What's taking him so long? And then she hears gunfire, and then the gunfire stops, and then the ghouls come for her. This makes Preston the last remaining Minuteman when you find him, single-handedly trying to defend the 4 remaining survivors of Quincy. He lost 1 man in Concord, at least 2 in Lexington, 2 more who went back to Lexington to retrieve the dead, and at least 11 other Minutemen and settlers during his walk from Quincy to Concord. Talk about a living hell. Who knows what that would have done to Preston's psyche? We will explore that topic in an upcoming video. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, that is the full story of the Super Duper Mart in Lexington, a tragic place that ends up becoming a tomb for too many Minuteman soldiers. What are your thoughts on the Super Duper Mart? Did you discover the corpses of Josh and Emma? Let me know in the comment section below. I read all of your comments and I use your comments as inspiration for my future videos. I create a new video every single day of the week, so be sure to subscribe to find out what I publish tomorrow. And if you'd like to talk about this topic with other like-minded individuals, check out the invitation link to my Oxhorn community Discord server in the description below. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Patreon subscribers gain access to a private channel on my Discord server, as well as a bunch of other cool Oxhorn perks. But more than anything, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so glad that you're here watching this video with me today. Thanks for watching from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning with a brand new video.